Hey there folks, welcome back to another video. Today we're doing another video on Daredevil comic books. Now the last video was actually supposed to be just a toy hunt, but I ended up not getting toys. I ended up getting some Daredevil comics at one of my local, it's technically not a comic shop, but they have comics, one of my local comic shops in the mall. I've been thinking about 27 books. Just to be clear, I have a lot more than 27 books right now, and it's been about a month. However, I did get some that I want to show you. I did get some in the mail that I'm going to show you guys right now. I have an overall bigger collection. I wanted to do, because I bought a bunch of lots. Then I, stopped for about a week and a half. Then I bought a bunch of lots again. I wanted to do videos in each of those when they came in, but unfortunately I ran out of time. If you notice some of the other videos that I've uploaded, if you're a Myers fan, I've uploaded a bunch of Myers videos all at once, and I have 2 more videos to go up. These are videos that I shot, over the course of however long. It's just, not having time to be able to upload them. So unfortunately, I didn't get to get these up when I wanted to, but I do have some thoughts, and I want to go on some of the stuff that I've already read and show you my overall plan. But right now, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the stuff that we've gotten. Let's start off with the smallest thing, which is this. I took them out of their boxes for the most part, but they're still kind of wrapped safely. This right here is going to be a very exciting read. Not anything that I'm not already familiar with. Of course, I've watched the show, so I'm sure it won't surprise me that much. We have Daredevil, The Man Without Fear. This is the mini-series that Frank Miller came back to write. And of course it's penciled by John Romita Jr. This was, from what I understand, a sort of, make sure these are all in order here. This was sort of a blueprint or a script for a Daredevil film that never came to be. So they ended up just using it for the actual series. Unfortunately, I can see now that the covers on these are a little bit more scuffed up than I had thought. They looked to be in pretty perfect condition when I was looking at the photos in terms of their corners and stuff like that. I'm not too worried about it. Actually, it really just seems like the first issue is really the only one that's kind of scuffed up. So I might be able to replace that easily. But yeah, they're not bagged or anything like that. We'll have to sort that out. But yes, I'm very excited to read this. I just read Daredevil Yellow, which isn't really an origin story per se, but it kind of touches on some elements of Daredevil's origin. And the interesting aspect about Daredevil Yellow is it more so connects to the original Daredevil intro, or Daredevil origin, as opposed to being following up, Frank Miller's retelling of the origin. And just some of the sort of subtle differences, like being in the original version of Daredevil's origin, he gets his powers when he's an adult, and in the Frank Miller version, he gets his powers when he's a child, and his father dies, and he becomes an orphan. Whereas in Daredevil Yellow, Daredevil's father dies when he's a grown man, and it kind of tells the story of him falling in love with Karen, which I really liked. I think as of right now, Daredevil Yellow is probably my favorite thing that I've read so far. I read Born Again. I wanted to read kind of, at least starting with Frank Miller's run, I kind of wanted to read that all the way up to all the volumes that I have, and kind of go back and read the stuff before that on its own, because it's a little bit less, the Daredevil that we know and love today. It's kind of its own thing. It has its own origin, stuff like that sort of thing. But I already had the Born Again graphic novel. It's the only thing that I already had, along with one of my other graphic novels. So I did read Born Again, and I'm in the middle of reading the newest volume, Volume 8, by John Romita. Well, John Romita does the covers, junior, but Volume 8 of Daredevil is, I'm in the middle of that right now. I'm about to read issue 8. But I've read Daredevil Yellow, I've read Daredevil Father. I'm kind of sticking to the mini-series, just because I can kind of read those and kind of get my toes wet until I fill in the volumes I want to do. My plan was initially to get everything from Volume 2 onward filled in, and I'm pretty close. And today we'll fill in a little bit more. But I have quite a bit, at least from Born Again on to Volume 1 but I would like to fill in some of that Frank Miller stuff. But anyway, yes. Man Without Fear. The Man Without Fear. Man Without Fear is actually a different thing. So, I've really got some more information and kind of really understand the way that Marvel is doing the volumes and stuff like that, and I have a pretty good understanding of Daredevil's publication history and stuff like that, and the different volumes and the different artists, and not so much the individual artists and writers, but in sort of the overall runs. I have a pretty good understanding now that I've took the time to kind of understand it. I'm being redundant now, but yeah, when I did that first video, there was a lot of different books that I didn't really understand how they went together, and later that night, I kind of, figured it out and put it together, and I've done that, so on and so forth for the past couple of weeks. I'm going to try to do a quick little interjection here, and I mean quick because my allergies are off the charts right now. I got my last 2 pieces in the mail today. I figured since I haven't uploaded the other video yet, I'd go ahead and stick them together. So we do have some cool stuff to go over. Nothing too crazy. Just figured I'd throw it in. I apologize if it's a little bit harder to hear me because of my stuffy nose or my runny nose, whichever, and then also the AC's in the back, so I apologize for that. We got 2 things to look at right here. Also, I didn't make this very clear in the last video. As far as condition goes, I'm going to be a lot more forgiving than some other people because, well, I don't want the book to be drawn on. I don't want it to have pages ripped out of it, of course. As far as like overall wear and tear, cracks, ticks in the spine, stuff like that, I'm a lot more forgiving to that because I think that offers up a lot more character. That's just my opinion. Some people might not agree with that. That's fine. Like for an example, if I were to get my hands on Daredevil #1 from 1963, I personally would want it to look a little bit more beat up than not, just because I think that just looks a lot cooler. But some of these issues are a little bit worn, so keep that in mind. I'm not totally concerned with getting 0.98 or 9.8 condition with these older comic books. That's not my concern with this. Let me go ahead and get them all sorted here. Well, not sorted, but laid out the same direction. First up, we got a couple of more older Daredevil books. We have Daredevil 119, and this is the one we can see some fading on his arm. Looks like they dropped some darn acid on the book. Right here is issue 125. Again, you can see some pretty good creases right in there. Like, I personally think that looks cool. I like that. I can understand the appeal of wanting it to be... excuse me. I understand the appeal of wanting it to be in better condition, and that makes a whole lot of sense to me, trust me. But as far as the book goes, 189. This one actually does have a pretty crazy rip going on right there, and they covered it with tape. If I'm being honest, I was probably a little overzealous when I bought this, and I didn't inspect the images perfectly, but I got all these for like $30, I think, so I'm not too worried about it. 137. I'm concerned with reading them. That's what I want to do. 133. This one isn't bagged and board. It's kind of bagged in a pretty crappy bag, but it is what it is. 129. Out of all the older books, these are actually the ones that I got that are in the worst condition. So, issue 150. 147. 162. So when I bought this specific lot, I had somebody give me an offer and stuff like that on some of the other ones. Like there was 3 of these that were in one lot for like $20, and then I seen another lot that had a couple others, and then I seen this one that had most of them for a relatively cheap price. I was missing a couple of the ones that I wanted, some of the early Bullseye, but I got it for a cheap price, so I'm not too upset about that at all. We have Daredevil Reborn. We have issue 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can see that right there. Daredevil Reborn. So, in Marvel's continuity, Daredevil has been born 4 times. There's the birth of Matthew Murdock, the birth of Daredevil, Daredevil Born Again, and then Daredevil Reborn. So yeah, I don't know what it is about Daredevil's titles that seem to just have very uncreative names. Like, you have the Death of Daredevil, which is the end of the 600 run, and then there's a miniseries called Man Without Fear. That's a continuation of Death of Daredevil, but that's also a name that was also from Frank Miller's The Man Without Fear. And then you have Daredevil Reborn, which is no different than being born again. It's very strange. I don't know what the deal is when it comes to the names. I'm sure there's stuff like that all the time with other characters, but since I have such a tunnel vision with Daredevil right now, and specifically trying to pick up his books, I've noticed a lot that the naming is pretty subpar. Also, you have like End of Days, which I want to read, but like I've also heard that's supposed to be like the Death of Daredevil. I think that's out of continuity though. As far as this goes, I don't know if it's in or out of continuity. It is written by I think his name's Andrew Diggle. I'm not entirely sure, but I know that he kind of writes towards the end of Volume 2. So I'm assuming if it is in continuity, it takes place around then. Although these books are $3.99, so maybe they're a little bit later. I'm not too sure. But yeah, like I said, I haven't really heard anything on this, so I'm excited to read that. We got Daredevil Limited Series, and then some of Volume 1. So this next little section right here, we've got some classic Daredevil right here. I think this is still probably considered the Bronze Age. But this is some of Daredevil. This is some of just before jeez, my goodness. Just before Frank Miller took over the book, we have Daredevil Man Without Fear issue 152. I keep thinking he took over on 158, but he didn't. He took over on 168, I believe. Or no, 158. I can't remember. But here's Daredevil issue 162 or 158. This one's 162. Very cool. 166. 167. Okay, so he came on at 168 because this is 167, and I know for a fact this is a Frank Miller book. 153. So these do have an order. I just got to put it together. 154. Then 155. So let's see if we can get together somewhat of a solid run here. So we have issues 152, 3, 4, and 5 together. Then we've got issue 158, 162, 166, and 167 right there. As far as what I already have, I don't know if I have really anything that fills that area in too well. It's mostly before and after. But yeah, we got a little bit before Frank Miller's run and a little bit during. Obviously, it's going to be harder to pick up 158 because that's the first book that he was on. And then it was I can't remember exactly the book that Elektra appeared, but that was the first book that he actually wrote. So yeah, we got, what is this, 8 books? Little 8-book haul right there. Now, I've done a whole lot of yapping, and we're not even onto the biggest thing yet. Actually, let me put that right there. So here's the next one. This, I found a gentleman on eBay. Actually, I found somebody first that was selling a lot of individual books that I wanted, and I asked him if we could put together a lot to save on shipping, and he did. We went back and forth forever, for him to understand, get the books that I wanted to get, or put together the books that I wanted to get. But eventually, I think it was a lot of 27 books, and he just wanted too much for it. way too much. So I've spent a lot of money on my Daredevil books as of recently, but I have not spent and will not spend, you know, over $200 for 27 books, especially since none of them were keys. I've spent, you know, a decent amount on books that I've gotten, but they all individually were good deals. But here we are, right here. This is going to be a lot of Mod Podge. This is a lot of the stuff that I need to fill in. So there's a lot that I need to show you guys in order to get everybody caught up to speed. But here is Daredevil issue 15 from volume 5. This is the Charles Soule run. Daredevil issue 159, or 599, again by Charles Soule. It's just before the death of Daredevil, and also it's during the Mayor Fisk. Marvel Knights issue 21, very cool. Volume 2, another volume 2, issue 19. I already have issue 19, but the issue that I had, it's one of the only bad issues that I've gotten. It had a lot of water damage, and it's still readable, but it's not really anything that I feel comfortable throwing away, but also it's not something I feel comfortable selling, so I don't really know what to do with it. Volume 2 again, here comes Daredevil, The Man Without Fear, issue 13. Very cool. That. Right there. The the 90s TV show Flash. I've seen a lot of DC marketing on some of these Marvel books. I find that very funny because I wouldn't have thought that would be the case. I don't have any DC books in my collection right now to know if DC does the same, although I'm sure they do. They kind of back each other, you know, when they have to. Things like that and small things. But here is Daredevil issue 81. The Murder Papers, I need that. That is volume 2. Another volume 2, issue 82, Daredevil, The Man Without Fear. Volume 5, Daredevil issue 26 from Charles Soule's run. Issue 607, again from Charles Soule's. This is volume 5. Volume 7, Daredevil issue 9, some Chip Zdarsky. Issue 8 of Chip Zdarsky's volume 7. Back to volume 2 with issue 84. This is kind of during the initial Civil War, which is pretty cool. Issue 18 from volume 2. Some beautiful watercolor artwork by David Mack. I forgot his first name there for a moment. Issue 611, Daredevil's The Death of Daredevil, again from volume 5, Charles Soule. Issue 22 from volume 2. These are in some pretty stellar condition as well. I'm very happy about that. A lot of the books that I've gotten have been in pretty good condition, like I said. Daredevil issue 83 from volume 2. Daredevil issue 602 from volume 5. Daredevil issue 54 from volume 2. What is this right here? Looks like he threw in a couple of random books here. New X-Men issue 149. I don't have any interest in this as of right now. Which is cool though, I appreciate it. And then there's this, which I don't even know what this is. Marvel Action. An Iron Man book? I don't know what's going on here. And then Force Wars issue 5. It's a cool surprise, I appreciate that, but I don't have any interest in that. Back to volume 2, Daredevil issue 12. Charles Soule's volume 5, issue 16. And then the last issue of volume 5, Daredevil, The Death of Daredevil 612. Now, as you can see, I might be mistaken, but all of these books that I've gotten have been from volume 2 and in this specific lot right here, have been from volumes 2 and 5. Those are really the ones that I need to collect, that I really need to fill in. Volume 5 has a couple of keys with Muse, Volume 2 has some keys with Echo. Volume 3, I'm only missing issue 21. Volume 4, I'm missing a couple issues, and then I have quite a few bits of Chip Zdarsky's, both of Chip Zdarsky's runs. And I have all of Volume 8 right now. That's why I'm reading Volume 8, and also because I already know how Chip Zdarsky's book ends, or his run ends in total. But obviously, like, there's some things in between. I know, stuff like that. But I would like to read at least Volume 2 onward to Chip Zdarsky's run. It's going to take me a long time to do that. But as far as Volume 1 goes, it's all a bunch of different runs and a bunch of different artists and stuff like that. Obviously, that's the same with the rest of them. But, you know, like after Kevin Smith comes off of Volume 2, you got Bendis for quite a while. And then, you know, eventually you lead into Shadowland, which is something I want to read. And then after that, it's mostly the same artists telling their story. But yeah, we got a lot of run fillers right now. Very, very excited. We got a decent amount for Volume 1, and then a lot to fill in Volume 2 and Volume 5. So I'm very excited about that. I don't have the time to do it right now, unfortunately. But I will show you what I have in total here in the next video. I do have a couple of other things that I'm expecting soon. So maybe when we do that video, I'll do that, or do this video in preparation for that. I don't know. But I've told you some of the things I have. Like, I have all Volume 3 except for issue 21. Daredevil Yellow, Daredevil Father. I read Cold Day in Hell. I haven't gotten the third issue for my local comic book store yet. My actual local comic book store, which I found a lot of good stuff from. And as you can see right now, I'm only collecting Daredevil, but I do have some different Spider-Man that I want to run. As far as Amazing Spider-Man goes, I'm not interested in anything that they're doing right now. And a lot of the older stuff is really expensive because you have so many popular characters that are introduced in Spider-Man. All of his Rogues Gallery, Punisher, stuff like that, Kingpin. So Spider-Man is going to be hard to collect. I did put aside a couple of old Amazing Spider-Man issues that I wanted to get, but as far as like a run that I would like to collect, something like the Spectacular Spider-Man isn't too long, and I know it's largely a solid read, from what I've heard. And then also you have like Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man run that would be pretty cool. Daredevil or Punisher Max, some older Punisher I put together. The other store that I've gone to has a lot of Elektra and Punisher there as well. So those are things that I plan to put together. I have them on hold right now. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, as far as what I've read Daredevil Yellow, Cold Day in Hell. I haven't finished Cold Day in Hell. Daredevil Father. I'm currently reading Volume 8, and I've read Born Again. So those are a mismatch of the things that I've read. So stay tuned. Yeah, pretty much it. Hope you guys liked the video. If you did, stay tuned. Like I said, hit the like button, subscribe, notification bell. All that would be greatly appreciated if you decide to do so. And of course, until next time, true believers.